In this special episode of the Marketing Podcast Party, I'll be sharing with you part one of an interview that my business partner Pedro Superti and I did with Rick Barker. Rick Barker was Taylor Swift's first manager, and you're about to discover some of the tips that he implemented with her to help her explode on social media. That's why I'm decked out in my pink party gear today, because I'm so excited by these amazing Taylor Swift tips that can help you explode on social media as well. And more specifically, here in part one, you'll learn about the power of winning collaborations. Rick Barker and Taylor Swift mastered their collaboration, and that helped jumpstart her career. So let's dive right into these tips. Enjoy.
So welcome to the next module, and I'm excited because in the next few videos, we're going to really talk about finding people that are going to help you turbocharge your business. Daniel and I, we met at an event. We started networking together. We started seeing that we had some things that were in common, and the next thing you know, we're collaborating together on a project. So that's what we're going to cover inside of this video. Is a little bit of collaboration, a little bit of networking, and stick around and watch all the modules, because I have a very special treat for you in module number 3 that not a lot of people get to see. How is that for an open hook? All right. You like that, Daniel?
In video 3, there's a surprise.
There is a big surprise in video number 3. So, and the reason I did this, is because I figured that you and Pedro had made fun of yourselves quite often throughout the first 5 modules. So I thought it was time that I ponied up a little laughter on my behalf. So,
oh, the vault was open. Oh my gosh.
There we go. There we go. All right, let's open up the slides, and here we go. So, the power of collaboration. Now, who should you collaborate with? That's a big question that we get asked a lot. Now, there's a big difference between direct versus indirect competitors. Now, on social media, collaboration is going to take you further, faster. But what happens when brands collaborate the right way? Everyone can win, even when they're perceived to be competitors. For example, let's take a look at the collaboration between Apple and Microsoft. Daniel, help us out here. Tell us the story.
So yeah, it's really interesting because Apple and Microsoft, in a lot of ways, they are direct competition, but they have some crossover because they're such big companies. Like these are multi-billion-dollar. Well, Apple's at $1 trillion valuation or something crazy like that. So they have areas within the industry where they are direct competition, and then they have areas where they're indirect competition. And so our general rule is that if anybody is, Pedro just shot it over to me magically, $1.3 trillion valuation for Apple.
Well, of course, because Pedro's an investor in Apple, and if Steve Jobs were still around, he would be his chauffeur. So yes,
investor. Let the records show, please.
An earlier investor. No, there you go. Early investor. He's not 100% on board with the current way things are going. No, but what's interesting is so we actually see people make this mistake. It's kind of weird. There's two ends of the spectrum where they make the mistake. One end of the spectrum is people get afraid and they get really protective of everything that they've created and innovated, and they say, I'm not going to collaborate with my direct or indirect competition. And then you get people on the other end of the spectrum where they're like, I'm going to collaborate with everybody under the sun, and a lot of the times they even end up collaborating with their direct competitors. Now, normally speaking, you're not going to collaborate side by side with your direct competition. If I've got the burger joint on one corner and across the street there's another burger joint, we're generally not going to do a collaboration together, right? But if it's, if I've got my burger joint on the corner and across the street is a Starbucks or whatever, yeah, let's do a collaboration. That competition across the street, if it's a Starbucks and I'm the burger joint, that's indirect competition, because sometimes people will choose if they're going to go have a burger today or if they're going to splurge and go get that Starbucks coffee. So that's kind of the difference here between direct and indirect competition. What's happened with Microsoft and Apple is that they are frenemies. Okay, they are frenemies. And as frenemies, there's a lot of areas where they will never collaborate, and there are a lot of areas where they have collaborated. And back in 1985, they started to collaborate, for example, with Microsoft Word, and then later on Microsoft Office. And so Apple, they would put out these computers in direct competition to the PC computers. But then you would actually see Microsoft software come out on those computers. So that's a really interesting point, because they continue to collaborate in areas, but then in the year, I don't know, 2000 and something, that you had the PC versus Mac, war that went on with those commercials that were always fun. So they continue to have this frenemy relationship, because even when it was Mac versus PC, you still had Microsoft products on the Macs, which so that kind of gives you a little bit of a sense here for the different spectrums of what we're talking about when it comes to direct and indirect competition and who you should be collaborating with.
Well, and that's not the only one, too. There's another one I want to share with you right now, and Pedro's got a great story on this. GoPro and Red Bull. Pedro?
Yeah, so about 4 years ago, so in 2016, these two gigantic brands, they decided to partner up. And Red Bull actually took a stake in the GoPro business, and GoPro had access to all of over 100 events, very popular events that happened all over the globe, and they were able to share content, and GoPro became the official device to capture, all this beautiful imagery that happened at the events. So it's really interesting, because if you think about it, they sell to the same customer, but they're not competitors, right? So people that use GoPros are the same ones that would drink Red Bull, because they love, being out and doing action sports and just feeling alive. So think about that, how interesting that is. How can I find other brands or companies, they're selling to the same customer I'm trying to sell to, but they're not selling the same product? Daniel just shared something about direct and indirect competitors. And my personal definition is you have three filters. If you're selling the same thing to the same person and in the same way, that's a direct competitor right there. So if you just change one of those three things, then it's different, So a lot of times you can find another brand that it's selling to the same person, but it's selling something else in a different way. So that's like the prime option you could go after, and it could make a lot of sense.
What's happening is that a lot of times if you go to the Men's Warehouse, so in the United States, we have the Men's Warehouse, a Men's Warehouse could partner with a local dry cleaning company, because obviously if you just bought a suit, at some point you're going to need it dry cleaned. You may, partner with what else? The cufflink store, or maybe men's accessory store, or things like that. A lot of times what's happening right now, which is interesting, is that blocks of people, so these brick and mortar stores, will sit there and say, okay, we're going to get our coffee here, and then you're going to get the $15 coupon to go to our neighbor. Some businesses were doing punch cards where if you visit all 10 stores, you got something special. So now all these people, that's a good collaboration. It's like we're encouraging this person to go to this store, to go to this store. Recently, last year at Traffic and Conversion, they had a punch card that if you went and visited every single vendor, you could be eligible to win a couple different things. And I ended up winning Ryan Dice called my name from the stage, and I won a quad runner because I went down and I supported each. So what they did is they all collaborated together, put the money for this prize that helped everyone by getting them to go back and forth. But I think the biggest collaborator, and also the one who thinks everyone is their competition, Daniel, tell this story about Disney World.
Yeah, so you might be surprised at the mindset that Disney has when it comes to the question, who is a competitor for Disney? We're talking about Disney World. We're talking about specifically the Disney parks. Now, Disney has a mindset that pretty much everybody in the world is their competitor. And there's a specific reason why. Disney makes a lot of their money, a lot of their profit getting people to come to the Disney parks. Now, if my family is deciding to go to Disney World or Disneyland or any one of the parks around the world, if we're deciding to go, let's say next year in the middle of the summer, let's just say, but for some reason, there's a special promotion that comes along for, I don't know, a brand new television, and we decide to drop $2,000 on that brand new television, we end up becoming a drain on the profits to Disney World, because instead of being able to go on that trip next year, maybe we have to delay that trip because we spent our disposable income on something else. So Disney actually has this mindset that everybody is a competitor. Everybody that fights for that disposable income is a competitor for the Disney parks. But at the same time, Disney ain't stupid. They realize the power of collaboration. They realize that they will also, even though they're the kings of the mountain, even though they're the big dogs, they are on top. Even though they're on top, they still go further, faster, and have a bigger reach in the world. And that's what this whole module is about, is how we can expand your reach organically. Disney also realizes that they can expand their reach organically through the right collaborations. So, for example, they have Disney Springs down there in Florida. It used to be called Downtown Disney. They have all these shops that they've collaborated with, where they've allowed those shops to come in. It's big money for Disney. I don't know all of the collaboration that Disney has done, but you've seen it. You've seen it on television. You've seen it through the promotion of movies. You've seen it on cereal boxes. You can't go to any grocery store without seeing Disney collaborations in some way on all of those products inside of the Disney, inside of a grocery store. So they are constantly collaborating with people, even though they consider a lot of those people to be indirect competition, because that is the way they define it. It is definitely indirect competition, but they will still collaborate with those people because it expands their brand and it helps them stay on the top of the mountain. It helps them continue to become that king.
So Disney looks at it as they're competing for dollars. So what else would someone be investing in that they're not, they know they compete against Universal Studios and some of these other theme parks, but they're also saying, hey, we're also competing for a family of 6. Every dollar that they spend someplace else is not a dollar that they could spend with us. And they've been able, and a lot of times what you'll see happen is companies like that will do coupons and sales. They'll understand that you definitely need to have other purchases in your life. So during certain parts of the year, have you ever noticed tickets are cheaper? Have you ever noticed they'll do certain things? They'll tie in promotions. Maybe it'll be Samsung night and they have Samsung TVs all over, and everybody who enters Disney will get a chance to win a Samsung TV. It's like, oh, I need a TV and I want to go to Disneyland. Let's cross our fingers and hope that we win. So there's a lot of different ways that you can tie this in. Now, how do you find these collaborators? What are the skills needed to go out and approach someone? That's like the biggest fear. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't go up to a Disney, or I can't go up to someone. Well, you kind of can. And we're going to talk to Pedro right now, and I'm going to show you this slide because it's one of my favorite words in the world: networking. Some people are fearful of networking. Some people probably go to therapists to figure out, oh my gosh, I have to go network with people. Pedro, let's take some time, all of us, and talk about some of the cool networking strategies that we've been able to pull off and some of the collaborations that we've been able to get because of that.
So at an early age, when I was 16 years old, I founded my first company selling websites. And I eventually figured out that business owners, they didn't want a website. That was just a hassle, just a pain. They had to do it. They wanted more customers. So I had to study marketing and psychology and how ads work. And there's this law that you as a celebrity, you need to understand. They say you need to be seen about 7 to 10 times so you look familiar to someone before they perceive you as familiar, right? And of course, depending on the market, or if you have certain characteristics that could be really extrapolated, then it's easier to remember you. And if you're just a regular person, it's going to take a little longer. So at networking events, what I did was, if I needed or if I wanted to talk to Rick, I wouldn't, and I still don't, go up and just straight up talk to him. Hey, Rick, I'm Pedro. Nice to meet you. Because he's going to be like, okay, Pedro, nice to meet you. So who are you, right? This is stuff. This is talking to a cold audience. So this one strategy that I developed is I usually try to be around Rick as the event is happening. So I would talk to people around him, but not to him. So he can listen to my voice. He can see me once, twice, 4 times, 5 times, until eventually when we talk, you have this feeling of like, dude, like, I kind of know you, right? Like, it seems like we're bumping into each other. We were meant to talk almost, like, right? So yeah, so it's just so much easier. You have a crack at it, you know? And so, yeah, it just works. How can you be seen 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or 50 times before you actually talk to someone? It's a big strategy you can use.
You know, you actually reminded me perfectly, Pedro, of a huge mistake people make in online forums and in Facebook groups and multiple groups across the web. They'll jump into a new group excited. And so, I don't know, let's say there's 20,000 people in the group, and then they get dollar signs in their eyes. And they look and they say, oh my gosh, there's 20,000 potential customers. Look at this. Oh my gosh, this is exactly what I want. So they jump in and they start to make mistakes, networking mistakes. And it kind of starts to seem very obvious that they're there because they want some monetary gain, right? So that's a mistake that people make all the time. And then sometimes they get kicked out of the group, or people ignore them really quickly because it's apparent that they're just trying to sell, and it's blah and nobody likes them. And they're the people that come to the party that didn't seem to be invited, where everybody wants to kick them out of the party, right? So, and then they're on the other spectrum. You can do exactly what Pedro said. You can go into these groups, these networking groups online, and you can be the person that, instead of saying, hey, here I am and here's what I sell, all of a sudden you slowly start to enter the conversation. And oh, look at these hundreds of posts where people are asking questions. Let me go in and let me comment. Let me start to be part of the conversation. And then before you know it, just by answering people's questions or being involved in the conversations, oh, boop, 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 look, I got a few friend requests today. That's a good sign. Tomorrow, same thing. I answer a few questions. I start to be noticed for the answers that I'm giving. And then boop, 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 there's a few more friend requests. And then before you know it, people start to look up to you. Oh, I wonder what Rick's going to say in the group. I wonder what Pedro's going to say in the group. And that's the big difference of the approach that Pedro takes when he does the networking in real life. And that's how you can also apply that same approach to networking in online communities as well.
One of the things that I teach, especially with musicians and definitely with entrepreneurs, is that your Instagram bio, your profile, your page is basically a business card. It's a big, huge business card. Now, as celebrities, you need to be set up properly so that after you've commented, like Daniel was talking about, and they go check you out to follow you, and then they see that you're an author or you're a life coach. They're like, okay, wait a minute. And then you have that freemium that they're able to go and download. And now you're even able to build a better relationship, all by going in and serving them first, getting involved in the conversation that's already started, not necessarily starting the conversation. One of the things that you'll come to realize as a celebrity is you're going to want to hang out with other celebrities. You're going to want to ultimately network with them at these events. I'm a seminar junkie. I love going to seminars. I love going to hear people speak. And what I do beforehand, I'm going to share with you a couple tricks right now. So the first one that we're going to talk about is what to do with almighty Instagram. So here's the cool part about Instagram today is there are over 600 million with an M active daily users inside of Instagram stories. So what I like to do first before I ask anyone or introduce myself to anyone is I will go to their profile and I will look at cool things that they're saying and I will share that into my stories. And then I will tag them and say, Pedro loved this quote. So this week, Brenda Burchard has hit me back 3 times. Gary Vee has hit me back 3 times because I'm just constantly sharing their stuff because I know my audience will appreciate their things. So then as soon as Brendan said, thank you so much for posting, Rick, I appreciate it, I clicked on the little camera icon, and I'll make sure that we have a handout for you right below this video. I've got a handout for you showing you the exact steps on how to find it. I clicked on the camera icon and I held down and I sent a video message back to him. So now in his feed where he's got all this stuff, whoop, this big old picture of Rick's face comes up and he clicks on it. Brendan, you know, been a big fan, been to a lot of your events. Matter of fact, I'm going to an upcoming event that you're hosting. Can't wait to meet you. Now, all of a sudden, they've seen your face. They've heard your voice. You've already been showing them that you respect and appreciate what they do because celebrities have egos. Let's just go ahead and say it. They're going to want to share it with their friends that they were noticed by someone and somebody had said all this nice stuff. So now all of a sudden you start tracking into their world. Well, you can do that also, not just with Instagram. You can also do it with Messenger. Now, here's the cool part about Messenger. There was a time when the only people you could message were people that you followed that followed you back. That's why celebrities didn't follow back a lot of people because they didn't want a bunch of crazies into their world. They didn't want a bunch of fans that were just always getting, so they would not follow a lot of people back. But now all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, we can now message. So you could send a message. Now, let me say this. You cannot send a message from your public figure page to someone unless they have commented on one of your posts. That's why it's important to get engagements on your post. So that's why you will ask little simple questions like, tell me where you're from. To the algorithm, they've engaged with you. Now they've gone one step closer in the relationship. So now you can reach back and you can send voice messages. You can send, if you notice inside a Messenger, there's a camera. Don't do that. I do not recommend just trying to video talk with someone or calling them. That will get you on the creeper list real quick. That will get people saying, security, that's the guy that's been stalking me on my socials. Be respectful the same way as a celebrity. You're going to want to have people be respectful to you as well. But when you get access to these tools and you can do it in a way where one, like Daniel said, you're providing value to the conversation that's already happened. Over time, you're going to be seen as the expert. When they decide to follow you, you want to look like an expert. We're going to make sure that you've got everything set up. I think we're going to do a whole bonus video on how to, best utilize your online real estate, where your YouTube is set up for optimization. Your Facebook public figure page is set up for optimization. Your Instagram you'll see there's the bonus video for that. And I had fun doing it to really help you out there. But this is all just part of the game. This is part of I love what Pedro said, when you go from cold traffic to warm traffic real quick. When all of a sudden, especially with someone like Pedro who has an accent, you're like, wait, where have I heard? Oh my gosh, that's the guy that has been sharing my stuff. I remember he hit me up on Messenger, and that's what I'll remember. I'll go, dude, you're the guy that hit me up on Messenger. Like I said, it's worked for me with both Brendan Burchard and Gary Vee. And there's a great book called Integration Marketing. Daniel, share a little bit about this book before we wrap up this module, and then we're going to talk about the biggest filters for collaboration. So integration marketing.
Yeah. So with this entire process, once you figure out those possible people that you want to collaborate with, the beauty behind the whole opportunity to collaborate is it's a little bit greedy. Okay. So it's work, like Rick pointed out, and like Pedro pointed out, and like I pointed out, it's work to find those possible collaborations. You're going to have to be proactive. You're going to have to network. But once you find them, you get to greedily kind of make money with little investment a lot of the times. Because what happens if you read the book Integration Marketing, which is a really quick read. I think it took me 2 hours to read the whole book, like the physical book, just sitting down and just flipping through it and reading it normal, 2 hours. So really easy read. But what happens is you get to do these fun little collaborations, and you get to say, well, so, hey, we're selling to the same people. I've got this little thing. Why don't we send an email to your email list and split the profits 50-50? Or why don't we jump on a Facebook Live together or an Instagram Live together and talk about this book giveaway that we're doing? Or I have a software program. How about you've got this marketing funnel and you're selling these things. Why don't we put my software program as an upsell once people buy your products? And you get to do these fun little collaborations, fun little possibilities. And in the book Integration Marketing, it's basically an idea machine for all the possible ways you could collaborate while spending little, except your, networking capital. So you spend the networking capital to find the right collaborations, and integration marketing gives you all these ideas for possible collaborations so that you can make more without having to go out and spend millions of dollars in advertising. So that's why I love that book. And one of the funnest examples in the book of people who have been doing this is, have you ever noticed how rappers, they'll jump on each other's songs and then they'll name drop their name and they'll be like Snoop Dogg or DJ Khaled or, everybody, they all do it. And they're just jumping on each other's songs, and they're doing that little collaboration within the song, but they're also getting their name out with all these different audiences, and people listen and they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of Snoop Dogg on 50 different songs that he didn't even write. And that's how I learned about Snoop Dogg. And then I started listening to his music, and people do that all the time. So that's a fun little example that the book shared as well. But the question is, how can you do that same thing in your industry?
And if I can just offer 2 cents, the easiest thing you can offer in exchange to do a collab with them, and that's a very good first step so you can get to know each other. We're going to be talking about that in the next video, is content. So you don't need to do a brand contract. You don't need to launch a product together. You don't need to do a huge campaign together. You can test the waters just by inviting them to do a live broadcast with you, on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook. And say, Daniel, I really like your vision and how I was watching this one video of you, and I really liked this and this. Be specific. Show them you actually watched it. So I really liked how you positioned, in your opinion, in this, and I learned a lot from it. And I would like to share this with my audience. Do you think we could do a live together? Some people will say no, some people will say yes, and then you get the ball rolling. And you get the ball rolling, then you get more people and more people. So when we talk about, big brands, you might be wondering, but I'm just a small person, I'm a solopreneur. So I don't have anything to offer. Yes, you do. Your points of view, your perspective, your knowledge, your stories, right? When you share that with your audience and you can invite someone else to talk with you, it's really powerful. What I look for when I reach out to people is who can confirm what I have been saying without me having to ask them to do that. So when I reach out to Rick, what I want to do, and again, we're going to be talking that in the next video about that. What I want to do is I want to make sure he's the real deal. And, you know, I don't need to ask him to say anything because it's just natural. So when I bring him on board and I share him with my audience, people are just blown away because they are looking at me and saying, oh my gosh, you know, everything we always talk about, he's confirming. Yeah. So that's what you want. And guess what? The other person or the other brand is looking for the same thing too. And you can be that person. You can be the one that goes there and confirms what they claim or what they teach or what they believe in. And this is really powerful, you know? So you don't need to do a big commitment to other brands. If you're just getting started, you can just test the waters by doing a live together.
Let me tell you a little hack that's going on with TikTok right now. So what happens is when you post a TikTok, it will ask you a question. Would you like people to be able to duet is what it's called. Instead of say collaborate, it's called duet with you. So Gary Vee says, sure, anybody can duet with me. So when that happens, you go pick something you want to duet with, it will split the screen. So there's Gary over here, and then there's you there. You don't even have to say a word, but nod your head and agree with everything that he's saying. And then everyone's taking and doing the screen capture picture and then sharing that across Instagram to go, oh my gosh, I just did this cool thing with Gary Vee over on my TikTok page, even though they didn't. But Gary was smart enough to say, you know what? Heck yeah, go duet with me. Share me with your audience. That's how we grew so fast. It was just wonderful when you see those kind of things happen. You're like, oh my gosh, that person must be associated with Gary Vee. I saw a picture of it. So when you can bring people on with, so we'll do IG stories, and during my IG lives, when I can request for someone to come on and join me. And then when they join, now their followers are notified that they're live. I call it building a lookalike audience in real time. So when I see my numbers go up because some more people joined, I'll go, oh, hey, you guys must be friends of Pedro. Hey, my name's Rick, and I teach in the music space. Matter of fact, Pedro's been to a couple of my events. He's one of my clients. If music is what you're into, there's a whole bunch of links in my bio, and you just kind of move on. I don't try to sell that new person. I just introduce myself and explain how Pedro and I know each other. All right, here's a real interesting picture. Go ahead.
Rick, yep. You reminded me of the module on expertise where we talked about creating your winning positioning statement. You could be a nobody yesterday, and within 2 weeks, you do 50 little collaborations where you invited 50 people over a 2-week period to jump on your podcast, and you jumped on their podcast. Then you add that to your winning positioning statement. I've been featured on over 50 people's podcasts talking about whatever it is that your niche market is. That positioning statement right there, you created it because you were proactive enough to go out and collaborate with people. And then now that's part of your winning positioning statement. And then if you say that, a brand like Disney that's looking for the right person to talk about that topic might look and say, hey, this person's already been featured on over 50 podcasts. They don't know that it happened over a 2-week period and it was all your, grunt work behind it, but that's part of your positioning statement now. And then you go and you take that, and it's part of the whole breakout moments that we're talking about. Okay. One collaboration can lead to the next collaboration, and it can lead to your next breakout moment where you become the bigger authority, the bigger celebrity in your niche market.
All right. So I have this crazy picture that I want to share right now. And let me jump into here. Ready? I'm going to back it up. I'm going to show it to you right now. You ready? How the heck did I end up with Willie Nelson on the honeysuckle rose? You guys have heard, I'm 28 years sober. Willie is world famous for everybody smoking weed with Willie. The biggest filter for collaboration, Daniel, start And then I'm going to tell that story on how Willie and I ended up together, because Daniel, go ahead. I'm going to save mine.
Okay, hopefully I say the right thing. So my personal filter is that I'm looking to collaborate with people that share a lot of my same values. You don't necessarily want to sempre, that's a word in Portuguese, to always be collaborating with people that share 100% of your values, 100% of what you do. It can be boring to do a collaboration with an exact copy of yourself, with your twin. You know, if it's Daniel Den and Daniel Den collaborating together, well, it's just more Daniel Den, right? And that can get boring. So you want to collaborate all with people that share a lot of your same values. And that doesn't mean that they need to share every single one of your beliefs. We're in a day and age where you can get in trouble for, tweeting the wrong thing, for saying something that's not politically correct. We encourage you to say things that are politically correct. Take precautions. But at the same time, if I don't 100% agree with, somebody that has a certain belief, for example, if I don't 100% agree with their beliefs, that doesn't mean I'm not going to collaborate with them. Nobody said that we can't be friends because we don't believe all of the same things. That's ridiculous. So we're looking for people to collaborate with that share a lot of our values. They share some of our beliefs, not necessarily all of them, but more importantly, it's okay. It's okay. We can agree to disagree sometimes. Let's, have healthy debates. Let's collaborate with a lot of these people, and let's at least respect each other's beliefs. And that's the filter that we actually put people through when we're deciding to collaborate with people.
Awesome. Pedro?
Definitely values. So I think the basis for any healthy relationship is values and vision. Do we want to go to the same place? Because if I'm going to New York and you're going to Tokyo, we're just like, the more time we spend together, one of us is going to be pissed because you're just wasting time. So when we decide where we want to go, vision, now we need to decide if we have the same values. And by values, my personal definition is the things I take into account when I make a decision. So if I have to make a decision, what do I worry about? And some people, for example, they could worry about money. Some people could worry about environment. Some people could worry about their reputation. Some people could worry about family. So when you find someone that has those two things and they're well aligned with you, you can relax, because anything they say, anything, like jokes they make, anything is there's a huge chance of your audience liking it too. But when you bring someone that it's really different, it could be dangerous.
Well, and I think too, when I showed you that picture of me and Willie, everyone has to understand, for me, I identify as a drug addict and an alcoholic because those were problems that I had. Those are things that don't go away. But I was also a bar owner. I was a sober bartender. I booked shows at the clubs because that was my problem and my issue. It wasn't everybody else's problems or issues. And I'm in the music business, for goodness sakes. If I said, well, I can't go out to a dinner because someone's drinking or things like that. So you don't have to be such a stickler sometimes. And you also don't have to worry about what other people think. It's like people would see me at a bar and they're like, oh, did you start drinking again? I go, no, I own the place. They're like, what? I said, yeah, only in America. An alcoholic can own a bar. I said, people drink when they're happy. They drink when they're rich. They drink when they're broke. They drink when they're sad. I said, that's like an inflation-proof business right there, a recession-proof. Everybody's just going to show up and do whatever they do. So I really wanted to meet Willie Nelson. And I tried as the radio guy to get to Willie Nelson. It wasn't going to happen. He didn't do many interviews there, but Willie had just released a brand new bourbon. So I called up my distributor and I said, what would it take for me to get to meet Willie Nelson? Do I have to sell the most bourbon? Do I have to order the most cases? Whatever it is. I knew a picture with me and Willie being that I was in country music and was building my celebrity as a radio DJ in country music, a picture with me and Willie Nelson could go a long way. So he says, if you buy 10 cases of Willie's bourbon, you'll get tickets to this show and I'll take you back and you can meet him. Like, great. So I ordered 10 cases of the Willie Nelson bourbon. We had Willie Nelson night. We sold it like crazy. So I go down, I meet with Willie, and he had agreed to let me interview him for my radio station. So it was a win-win situation for everyone involved. Now, everyone kept asking me, are you going to smoke weed with Willie? Are you going to smoke weed with Willie? Everybody who goes on the Honeysuckle Roses bus has to smoke weed with Willie. I said, no. I said, at this time I was like, 20 years sober. I said, no, I'm not going to jeopardize my sobriety. So I go on, and Willie said two things to me that night that absolutely changed my life. He offered, and I said, no, sir, I'm sober. And he's like, man, congratulations. That's awesome. I asked him a question. I said, Willie, you have made a lot of careers by doing collaborations with other artists. You did one with Sheryl Crow. You did one with all these different artists, and you kind of put them on the map. I said, if you had a chance to collaborate with anyone, who would you pick? And he paused and he looked at me and he goes, do you know how to sing? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the right answer. Every time I'm trying to build him up, he always brought it back to me. That is a very valuable lesson when networking, when collaborating, is he didn't need to sit there and tell me how great he was. I knew how great he was. He kept throwing it back to me. And those are lessons that I have carried with me forever. The filters that I use right now is, one, I do a lot of work with, if you do a lot of work with kids, if you do a lot of work with, other professionals and things like that, your filter might have to be a little tighter right now. Do a little research to see what happens. I was teasing earlier. I said, yeah, if I bring somebody as a house guest, I get invited to a party and I bring a guy to a party and he ends up stealing something from that house. That looks bad on me too. That reflects bad on me. So what I have to do right now, everyone wants to collaborate. No is a very powerful word. Okay. So don't feel that you have to say yes to everybody. Don't feel that you have to say yes if a bigger celebrity than you comes along and wants to do something with you. If it does not line up into your world, more importantly, it also doesn't line up into your clients' worlds. It doesn't matter how big this perceived celebrity might be. It just doesn't line up and it doesn't match. So do whatever you feel best for you. Don't be that person. Be that person when they see you, they want to high five you and they want to thank you for something that you've done for them. And we're going to talk more about how to find them as we move in to the next video.
All right. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Marketing Podcast Party. Please share this episode with your friends, family, and business partners. Also, remember that the party continues with your free copy of the Ideas That Influence book and interactive box experience. I wrote the book and created a box experience to help you with even more mildly successful marketing ideas. Head on over to bigideasbox.com to grab your copy. You'll get your copy for free. You just pay shipping and handling costs. Once again, that's bigideasbox.com for your free plus shipping copy of Ideas That Influence. I'm Daniel Din. This is the Marketing Podcast Party, and I'll see you in the next episode.